Tim Black. Tim Black. Tim Black. Yes, I am. Tim Black. True Tim Black. Yes, I am. Tim Black.
What up? What up?
I am TimBlack.com.
Hey people, how you doing? The screen is cut off right now. It's kind of crazy. That's because it's set up for two people. It's set for two people. I think Jared's going to be joining me like any second. Welcome to the Tim Black at Night show. I think I'm normal now. I think I am. Let me see if I'm normal now. Yeah, I'm normal. Jared's having a little problem with the webcam working with this software, but he's going to be here. He's just going to be a box. So that'll work because we know who he is.
Tim, can you hear me?
I hear you just fine, brother. You live.
Okay. All right. Hello, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Hey, let me make sure they can hear us all.
Right.
Hey, guys. Oh, they hear you. Crop top. All right. Well, hey, look, guys. Believe me, this is the real Jared Beck. He's actually here. We're actually connected. And give it up for Jared Beck. You know who he is. DNC fraud lawsuit. Part of that incredible team.
Well, thank you for having me, Tim.
Always, brother, always. So, Jared, man, I want to get to it, man. What is going on, man? Have you heard any movement on this lawsuit? What's the haps?
Well, we're still waiting for the judge to rule on the motion to dismiss. So there's been no news since we spoke last. Okay. I believe a few months ago after the big hearing on the motion to dismiss, and we're waiting for an order. Okay.
Well, you know, as much as people on pins and needles, kind of, you know, I know it's a slow process, man. What's the typical time frame for them to, like, you know, rule on something like that?
There really is no typical time frame for a motion of this nature. I mean, you know, I would expect a longer time frame than your typical motion to dismiss, only given the complexity and magnitude of the issues involved. And I think the judge made that very clear at the end of the hearing. So by no means am I surprised that it's been a few months since the hearing. The order could come any day now, or it could be another few months down the road. We really have no way of knowing.
It makes sense. It's just, you know, people start to get to speculating, and it's still good to, like, get the facts to know, like, you know, hey, guys, don't freak out yet. Like Jimmy Dore would say, don't freak out. It's still in the works, and we still have to see.
Right.
And last we talked, I think we were talking about some of these situations where it seemed like you guys were the object of intimidation by some people. We don't know who those people were. And they shot that down. The court didn't honor that. You guys may need protection.
Right. We filed a motion with the court documenting everything that's happened outside of this case that has been bizarre, threatening, concerning, unusual, you know, just a whole series of strange events, really starting with the murder of Seth Rich, a murder which remains unsolved to this day. The sudden and unusual death of our process server, the strange call to our office by a number associated with Debbie Wasserman Schultz, death threats that were received by our co-counsel in connection with the what's now been ruled a suicide of Barrington Wiseman. I don't know if you saw the news today, Tim, but Barrington Wiseman, the attorney in Debbie Wasserman Schultz's district, U.S. attorney, who washed up on Hollywood Beach with a wound to the back of his head, that's been ruled a suicide. And you know, it's kind of, you know, I mean, without knowing anything about the facts really than what's been reported in the media, you know, it's got shades of Vince Foster all over it.
Amazing. A suicide by hitting himself in the back of the head. No, I hadn't heard about that, Jared. Gosh, man, I don't know what to make of that. That doesn't seem to make sense to me. It sounds like the old knife in the back. Oh, obviously this man set the knife up and then dove onto it or something, like these weird ideas they have of people taking their lives.
And where's the gun, right? I mean, it's not like a gun was, typically if somebody shoots themselves in the head or anywhere, the gun's going to be somewhere nearby. And I haven't seen any reports which suggest they recovered a gun at the scene. So,
it was a gunshot. See, I always thought it was a blunt force, like a blunt force object or something.
Well, maybe I misread, but I read in the reports today that it was ruled a gunshot to the back of the head.
Who the hell? Gosh, that sounds as likely as a man being robbed, a botched robbery where someone gets shot twice and nothing's taken. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, and and it's not like things like this haven't happened before in recent American history. I just have to cite the example of Vince Foster as one of numerous suspicious deaths that leave a lot to be desired in terms of whether the investigation turned up the truth.
Yeah, wow, man. I don't know what to say. Vince Foster, man, could you refresh my memory on Vince Foster? I know the name.
Yeah, this was a Clinton lawyer who was found in a park in D.C. During the Clinton years, and it was ruled a suicide. And there was actually a U.S. attorney who was part of that investigation that wrote a memorandum, which you can find on the internet this day, laying out how, in his opinion, it just wasn't feasible for Vince Foster to have taken his own life, given the way in which the body was positioned and other facts and circumstances at the scene. So, but that's only one of just many examples. We had the guy from Haiti, Klaus Aberween, who also was a supposed suicide in a Miami hotel recently. We had excuse me, my kids. I think I hear one of my kids crying. If you just give me a second.
No problem, man. No problem. Yeah, guys, I'm always astounded by people who think that nothing bad could ever happen to anyone. We live in a country where violence is often used to solve people, to shut people up, to get people. Heck, man, we're probably one of the most murderous, westernized countries in the world. And whenever these mysterious deaths happen, and anyone says anything, even remotely, like maybe they met with foul play, we have these people that call us conspiracy theorists.
Hey, Tim, I'm back.
Oh, you good? Okay.
Okay, I just heard the word conspiracy theory.
Right. I was just telling the crew, man. It's like, we live in a country where violence is used to solve so many things. But when we bring up an issue, when we bring up a suicide that looks fishy, and we even float the idea that maybe this person met with some form of foul play, people act like we don't live in this country anymore. Like we can have 30, 40 people killed on a weekend in Chicago and 20 people killed in Detroit. But if I say, well, maybe this person was killed, they go, "You're a conspiracy theorist." It's crazy, Jared.
And actually, my wife has taken to actually wearing a tinfoil hat in public. As a form of protest, and it's really, she's gotten some really interesting reactions. I mean, she goes to the grocery store, gas station, just walks around town, and gets in front of people with this ridiculous looking tinfoil hat on, and by doing so, she's able to sort of spark a discussion, about the nature of our media. And what she tells me is that most people she encounters are very distrusting of what they see on the TV today, which I think is a good sign. I think the level of consciousness in society is being raised, and being raised at a very rapid pace, and people are no longer trusting what they see over the traditional mainstream media. And I think, I personally like her strategy because, sometimes I feel like folks like you and me may live in a bubble of our own because we are so engaged with these issues that we believe that everyone else is engaged with these issues, and it's really not the case. A lot of people are still very unaware of what's going on because the mass media is so powerful at brainwashing people, blacking out the truth, obscuring the truth, spreading disinformation, that it's really up to those of us that see through the BS to spread the truth throughout society and to raise consciousness. And I really think it's a matter of getting in people's faces and engaging people and discussing with people, because I think we're in a really, personally, I think the politics in this country is really reaching a crisis state. And that's my opinion.
Oh, man, well, I agree with you 100%, man. And also let Elizabeth know that's a very cool way to get people to start talking. And she needs to bring a camera with her, Jared, and film some of that stuff. That's great.
She did a live stream today walking around downtown Miami with her tinfoil hat. And these are really well, the nice thing is anybody can make one of these. You just need some Reynolds wrap. You can get creative with it.
Right.
And, you can, it's just one of many ways to go out into public and to engage people in your community about what's really going on in our society.
Lately, Jared, I've been going out myself, because I live very close to D.C., so I've been going out to D.C. every couple of weeks and just talking to people on the street. And you're right, a lot of people are very distrustful of the media, and a lot of people see through it too. Now, they don't know it to the extent that, of course, you and I know it because we live, eat, sleep it. But they are, people were using terms like propaganda. They were using terms like fake news, lies, deceit, like all of it. And I was like, wow, and these are just, these aren't CEOs of companies. These are just regular working people who I met during lunch walking down the street in D.C. And it's really refreshing, man, to know that, you're right. Like, some people are they don't tune in because they're so disgusted, bro. It's like they don't even watch it, but they don't trust them, though. So, they're just, they're disgusted. They don't tune in. They're disgusted. They know it's BS. At the same time, we all have to realize that people have jobs, people have families to feed. They don't have the time to get on to the internet and social media and actively search out the truth of what's going on. I mean, that's a laborious process, as we all know. We have to constantly filter through the information that we get, and we have to distill the truth on our own and use our critical thinking skills. And for a lot of people, they just don't have the time or the luxury to do that. And so, I think it's up to all of us to do what we can to bring people up to speed on what's been going on. And especially since, the events going back to last election, I mean, there's just been so much in the way of noise created by the mainstream media, which is so loud that even if you don't watch TV, you're still susceptible to it. And it reaches us in so many different ways. I mean, it reaches us through Hollywood. It reaches us through movies. The government that we live under has a very powerful way, very powerful means at its disposal to brainwash all of us. And it's been doing so for a very, very long time with a great deal of effectiveness. So that's what we're up against. Absolutely, man. I think about it every time I watch a movie. The weirdest thing is, like, so me and my wife will be watching something, and she's starting now to kind of see what I've been seeing, which is the little tropes that they put in these movies sometimes to do exactly what you said, brainwash you, social engineer you to, particularly, excuse me, anything nationalistic. Like, we always go to war. It's always a good reason for when we go to war. We're always the good guys. You know what I mean? Everybody else is crazy. And you start looking, it's like, wow, you really start picking it out. You really. So, yeah, man, I think that we're in a special time where there are people waking up, man, but they want to stop our internet, Jared. And if they're able to do that, they will have really set us back.
Absolutely. The only reason we're having this conversation right now is because of the internet. I mean, let's be realistic about that. I mean, this is the thing which has made this increased consciousness possible, is the ability to break through the mainstream media's brainwashing and the disinformation and the misinformation that we've been subject to as a country for decades. But you know, you better believe it. They're thinking of ways to work around that or to cut us off from the internet, you know, as we speak. And so it's up to us to keep, you know, to keep doing what we're doing and to fight against that. But the internet, you know, is a little bit of a different animal than the mass media. It's, you know, was designed in a way to be resistant to centralization and to being co-opted. I mean, it grows out of a project that our own military started so that there would be a way of communicating should a cataclysmic event happen, like a nuclear holocaust. So it's a very resilient form of communication. So I'm optimistic that we can, keep, moving forward using the internet, and that we won't be subject to this kind of, co-optation anytime soon. But you're right. It's a battle that, we have to be very, very aware of.
Yeah, absolutely agree, man. We, some people say, wow, Tim, you're doing really great with the subscribers and all that. But I tell you, man, Google picks winners and losers. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So like, I believe, man, that like I know for a fact they shut down my views a lot of times. They don't give me as much search opportunities just because of the type of content that I use, that I talk about. And it's never anything graphic. I try to keep the language to a minimum. So it's really not it's the subject matter. It's not the content itself. It's the subjects that we talk about when we talk about the DNC or the Hillary or corruption or North Korea. And it was one time we talked about the wars. I had to change the word to conflicts because they were flagging everything that said war, and I won't even say the name of the war we were engaged in. But it's it is happening now. It's not something that's coming and we need to be worried about it. It's already going on, where where they're silencing certain types of voices, man. So I did a video earlier today, man, about someone in your backyard, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And her connection to the DNC, the WikiLeaks documents. And I'm seeing that some Democrats are finally turning on her, Jared. I don't know, man. Have you any thoughts about what's going on with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to be very careful of something that is sort of a age-old phenomenon that happens from time to time, and that's the phenomenon of scapegoating. And what I mean by that is that there's going to be a tendency now for the establishment, the powers that be, the real powers behind the Democratic Party, to try to find a scapegoat, because they would love nothing more than to maybe, put a couple people in jail and then say, okay, we've fixed the problem, and okay, those people are, where they belong. Everything's okay with the party. Let's move on. That's my concern with that. I mean, what we're up against, and this is something that, I've only really learned through being a Bernie Sanders supporter and then filing this lawsuit and pursuing it. What we're up against is so much deeper and more menacing and more threatening to our political life than Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And it goes beyond any one or two or really any collection of people. We're talking about deep-seated corruption that has invaded our government to such an extent that cleaning things up is just such an enormous job. I mean, it really is shocking when you think about it.
Very good point. Very good point. Something I think about often too, because I don't mince words. I go after people that I think are corrupt. I go after institutions I think are corrupt. But you're right. It's even when I go after Hillary, she's just one person. Right. The machine's gonna keep running.
Oh yeah.
Regardless, man.
Right.
Maybe her. Yeah. There you go.
Clinton is a puppet.
There you go.
I know a lot of people. The tendency is to portray her as evil incarnate, or Debbie Wasserman Schultz as evil incarnate, or Bill Clinton, or George Bush, whomever. These are all puppets. They're puppets that have been moved and manipulated behind the scenes by much more sinister forces. And if we're going to get this country back on the right track, we need to go to the heart of the problem. You have to start by what's visible, but you have to keep going. And I had a interesting discussion today with not George Webb, Jason Goodman, a gentleman by the name of Charles Ortel, who has been after the Clinton Foundation for years in terms of the fraud that organization has perpetrated and the corruption that organization has introduced, not just in this country, but on a global scale. Okay. And when you think about what needs to happen in order for that organization to be brought down, it's truly, it's an intimidating task. And we all are going to need to focus on it and work on it together, because it's not something that a few people can do in a short amount of time.
Yeah, and I want to make sure this is clear to everybody listening, because we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Periscope. Jared's not saying that these people should be in power. Like, just because he says it's bigger than Hillary, it's bigger than Debbie, it's bigger than, George Bush or whatever, or Bill Clinton. But, he's not saying they should be our presidents or be our leaders. No. But what he's saying is just wiping them, getting them out of the arena will not change the arena. So we have to look at a more comprehensive reform and look at it for the long haul. Like, we're going to be doing this the rest of our lives. And I think with some people, I don't think everyone's as evil as even I make them to be. I'm saying I think some people, they want the best, right? They go in there with good intentions, Jared, and then somewhere along the line they go, well, you know what? I can't beat this system.
Right. And we have you make such a good point, Tim, because it really gets at the nature of evil and how you combat evil. Evil isn't something that I think most people do consciously. I think what happens is that most people go into things with very good intentions, and they end up, in the situation that we're seeing now with all this, just the enormous amount of corruption that seems to be unearthed on a daily basis with our government. They prove themselves to be too weak in the face of a system. But this is a system that all of our current politicians grew up in this system. They've known no other system. The way to do politics in this country is to be corrupt. That's just the hard truth that I think we as Americans need to accept. And so, I'm just getting back to the point about scapegoating. That's a really dangerous trap to fall into, because if you don't do the job completely of cleansing the corruption out of our system, it's just going to come back. Just like any incomplete job. I mean, if your house is taken over by termites and you don't get rid of the entire problem, they're just going to come back, in a matter of time. And that's what we have to keep in mind, I think.
Yeah, you're right, termites. I was thinking about this movie I saw a long time ago with Jason Goodman, Denzel Washington, where there was this like ghost thing, and you could touch someone, and then the ghost would be in the other person, and it just kept going that way. Where I forget the name of it. It came out like in the early '90s, but they're transferring the evil.
Right.
The evil gets transferred to other people. So believe me, when you give it to Hillary, she's going to grab onto somebody else, and they're going to have it.
Right.
You gotta go get the other.
Exactly. Except what we need to do is we need to establish precedent, and we need to reestablish the rule of law in this country by punishing the wrongdoers and handing out punishments that are proportionate to the crime. That's how we deliver justice in this country. Unless that's done, we're not going to be setting ourselves on the right track.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think that I agree with you definitely that we do have to get on the right track. I think a lot of people You know, sometimes it's hard to know how many people we have in the progressive movement or truth movement. I get tired of using the word progressive. It's just like a knee-jerk thing to say progressive, because I meet people on the street who I think voted for Trump, who are conservative, and they're the same way. Like they see things as distorted and as jumbled as I see them for the most part.
Right.
I think about it. I remember the movie Wall Street. I'm a big movie buff, Jared, so you got to bear with me. And I remember that attitude these people had, like, we need to get rich. Right. We don't care how we get rich. And they were existing in a system where that's what you did to make money.
Right.
So I juxtapose that with politics, and I say, yeah, I can see people, pretty much saying this is the way it's done, and then being mentored under people who told them this is the way it's done. And then maybe they saw some cautionary tales along the way of people who tried to buck the system.
Right.
And it didn't end well,
Right.
and maybe some of those people ended up in some of the ways we started off this show when we were discussing untimely or sometimes out of the blue suicides.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a reality of our politics that most Americans maybe still don't want to admit. The reality of political assassinations. But this is something that has been going on for a long time in this country. I think the assassination of JFK in 1963 was a seminal event that is still not understood. Or, I think if you poll most Americans, they don't agree that Oswald was a lone gunman. I mean, that part is true. But then the next step is, well, if Oswald wasn't acting alone, who did this? And there's been a lot of very meticulous researcher by very dedicated independent historians that, when you actually sit down with the books and you read them and you look at the evidence, to me, it's pretty clear that this government had a very clearly defined role in the assassination of JFK. It was with other groups. It was a political assassination, a coup by this government, and it's never gone acknowledged in the historical record of the United States. And I think that's a problem. Part of what's going on now, Tim, is I think Americans are in the position where we have to start rewriting our own history, and that happens from time to time. And it can be painful, but we have to start confronting our own recent history and understanding of political events, because I don't think it's what we've been taught in schools.
No, they want to call slaves farmers.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what they, the way they refer to Native Americans. Well, they just helped them. We tried to help them, and they just taught us how to fish and how to grow crops, and then everything was fine. And they just skim over like genocide. Like extermination of human beings, like nothing. But, people would believe it if you bring up Russia and you talk about political hits. Mm-hmm. They believe it then. Oh, yeah, Russia, that Putin guy, they killed so many people over there. But when you bring up America, it's like, no, not America.
Well, so many resources have gone into programming the average American mind into believing certain tropes, such as, Russia being the enemy. You just have to look at our movies, how they're depicted, who the enemy is. I mean, I remember, Rocky IV with the one with the boxer from Russia. I mean, that's, Dolph
Lundgren.
Yeah. I mean, that's those movies have a huge effect on us. They program us. I mean, they're very, very powerful. And then you couple it with a mass media 24-hour a day news cycle that was created with the birth of cable news, and you just have this very, very powerful means to shape people's minds. And so, to me, it's not surprising that people are sort of instinctively, they've been programmed to latch on to a narrative such as Russia hacked the election. But what's good is that, and this gets back to what we were saying before about the internet, there are other tools at our disposal whereby we can bypass what's being fed to us in the mass media, and we can get at the evidence and pick apart the evidence that's being presented to us and find the evidence that's being hidden from us. And that's what's different now. And I think that's why we're in the midst of a changing consciousness.
Well, I definitely hope so, man. I know I've been pounding away at it for a few years now. And, you know, I did a video yesterday about Michael Brown, and I didn't even get into the case because it just causes a lot of fighting and, you know, it gets really racial real quick. But I was trying to show people how, you know, when it depends on where you get your news from, what you believe.
Right.
Like, you know, please wake up and realize that, you know, the people that you're angry with because you think that, you know, you're saying, well, they're racist or they're bigots or they're this or they're that, realize they don't even watch the same news you watch. So these ideas that they have in their head came from somewhere, and a lot of them didn't come up with it themselves. They were fed this information and they accepted it just like you, and you are doing the same thing. You're watching something and you're not listening to a contrary opinion. You know, you're getting your information typically from CNN or MSNBC, and you're being lied to too, just in different ways about different things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, you know, the mass media, you know, I think of the birth of CNN in 1982 really signaled a new era in mass media and a new, very powerful tool for the media to divide people, because, you know, first you had CNN and then Fox came along, and now suddenly you can have 24-hour-a-day news that is, you know, filtered through a particular partisan lens. You know, before you just had the networks, right? You know, and so people would, you know, everybody would turn into Walter Cronkite to get their news. And, you know, it wasn't, you know, television wasn't such a powerful means to divide people. But I think once you know, with the birth of the cable news cycle, they originated the possibility of exactly what you're talking about, which is that, you know, people are watching completely different channels, which have completely different slants on the same events. And so they're never going to agree on anything about the event because they've been programmed not to agree from the start.
Perfect, Jared, perfect. I should have said it that way in my video, because that's exactly what I see going on. Because I have a cross section of viewers who, you know, conservative, liberal, whatever, and some people don't even participate on the political. They don't vote. Some people, they're so, you know, how can I say, man, they're so run down by the system, they don't believe anything works. So you even have those people. And I tell you, man, you'll get a different story from whoever. It depends on who you talk to, and they believe that thing. They'll ride for that thing. That's the thing, you know, whatever it is. And meanwhile, while we beat up on one another, while we shame one another, while we constantly do that, we're not looking at the source of that information. So I don't know, man. I don't even know how you combat that. I try to let people know that it exists. Right. You know, I have to watch other programs. I don't just, you know, I consume a little of everything just to know what people are talking about to, you know, pick my content. But I know most people don't do that because you'd be pissed off. Like if you're an MSNBC watcher, watch Fox News for a week.
Right.
I don't know if you could get through it because you'll be mad as hell, like really mad. And it goes the other way too. If you watch Fox News, watch MSNBC and you will be pissed off. But after you get over your gag reflex, after you calm down, you'll start saying, hey, you know what? These people make sense out of their point. Yeah. It's not like Fox News is just going, you know, racist, bigot stuff out their mouth all the time. They say things and they slant it in that direction, and you'll watch the programs, you'll be like, okay, I can see why somebody believes it. So
that's a really interesting way of looking at it, because I think it gets to what needs to happen in America for us to, you know, get to the right place. And I think people need to become active, critical consumers of information rather than passive, you know, sit on the couch, you know, turn on CNN or MSNBC or Fox because that's what I've always listened to. You know, and this is kind of where the hard transition is, because, you know, personally, as you know, I find social media to be a very, very powerful way of curating information, specifically Twitter, because you can customize your feed and make sure that you have various sources coming across from various angles. And I think you're exactly right. When you force yourself to see things from different angles, you're going to get a better perspective on what the whole looks like, and you can use your own critical skills to put the different narratives next to each other and decide which one is right, because ultimately that's how we should be observing our society as humans. I don't think we were ever intended as animals to be passive with respect to the reality of environment. I mean, we all come from hunter-gatherer societies that had to be very, very alert and very much in touch with their surroundings and to know the full truth of their realities. Otherwise, they would, get eaten by bears or, whatever happened to people back then, and we've really gotten away from that. I think we're so much lazier intellectually in a lot of ways than we were in comparison to our ancestors, because, we allow ourselves, we don't actively seek out information about our environment if we're just sitting, in a couch and turning on the TV. That doesn't make you an informed person in this day and age. It may have at one point in time to watch the news, when you came home from work. Yeah. But I think, in terms of actually figuring out the truth, there's some more active effort that's involved. Social media is a way of, or the internet, or but again, it's a time-consuming process, and with so much disinformation out there, I think a lot of folks are really lost in terms of telling truth from fiction.
Man, Jared, I remember a time when just watching the news made you feel like you were smart.
Right.
Like you didn't, no requirements. What you doing? Watching the news? What? Look at you. Right. You want to know stuff. That's how it was seen. I remember, back when Cosby was a good guy and people watched the news, that's what we used to think, hey, we're watching the news, we're learning something today.
Right.
And that's because, and look, and I don't know if it was going on then, like the, disinformation to the extent it is now, but I got a feeling this is no new stuff.
Right. Right. And that's what's so... That's such a scary thought when you think about it. And I was actually talking about that with Charles Ortel and Jason Goodman and his show today. The same point came up, and which is that, if you discover that somebody that you're in a long relationship with, say it's a business partner, okay, and you discover that business partner has defrauded you in a serious way, in a recent transaction, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look back at all your prior transactions and ask yourself, well, if he or she has done this to me, as of a week ago, what about all the other previous times I've been dealing with them? And you're going to check your books. Yeah. And, if my experience with fraudsters, litigating fraud cases for a long time, holds up, in all likelihood, you're going to find other examples of very, very serious fraud that was perpetrated on you by the same person. And I feel that same principle applies to the media today, because, we progressives, we were just the victims of a very extensive fraud in connection with our 2016 primaries. And that same media has been, in my view, selling us all kinds of things for a long time. And that needs to all be examined and dealt with.
I tell you guys, I don't want to piss people off, but I'll tell you, some of these high-profile cases, the initial publication, the initial announcement, the initial story, how it's presented, they know the facts change. They never correct it. It's just left out there and people consume it. I see it a lot because this is what I've been doing for years now. And I'm like, wow, when I first noticed that they were doing that, it was like a shooting case. And it was horrible. I was like, I couldn't believe it, that they just left this negative, this wrong information out there. And this was MSNBC. So yeah, they definitely do that. It happens a lot. If you follow these stories, it happens a lot. The forensicator. The DNC, the latest, the document, the article released by The Nation, Jared, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it.
Yeah.
But it ties into your wheelhouse.
Right. Well, this goes into another lie that's been shoved down our throats ever since Donald Trump won the election, which is that his election is somehow illegitimate because Russia, quote unquote, hacked the election, the whole Russia narrative, so to speak. Well, this Nation article that you're referring to is actually based on an earlier article that appeared in a publication that I like very much called The Disobedient Media, which I recommend people follow, which took a very close look on some very serious, detailed analysis of the Guccifer 2.0 documents, which folks may remember that before WikiLeaks published all of the Podesta emails and the whole series of internal DNC documents, there was a smaller collection of documents published by this shadowy figure known as Guccifer 2.0, and folks that are experts in information technology and networks and data and things like that have looked at those files, and the evidence is pretty convincing, I would say, that those files were put into the public domain not by Russia, which is what the media has been telling us ever since actually, shortly after those files appeared, but by someone from inside the DNC itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is an arrow to the heart of the Russian narrative. At the same time, that forensic evidence is being examined and analyzed, and the truth is coming out that way. We have the whole Seth Rich scenario playing out, and it's being investigated. And I would encourage people to really look at, the latest in terms of independent investigations that are going on of the Seth Rich case, because obviously, you're in DC, that the DC police investigation has gone nowhere, right, in the span of over a year now. But there are a lot of dedicated people out there. I'll name one in particular, a gentleman by the name of Matt Couch, who I follow on Twitter, who provides, he has a team of people that are working to find out the truth of what happened to Seth Rich. And they've come up with just a lot of fascinating insights based on talking to people, based on, connections in the intelligence community, and, just to sort of get the whole, and there are other people looking into Seth Rich as well. But, just to get sort of into that is another way of coming at and dismantling the Russian narrative, because again, once you present evidence, not only that Russia wasn't involved in those documents getting leaked, but that the source of those documents was the DNC itself, then the whole Russia thing has a whole different spin on it. Now you're talking about nothing more than a cover story that was created by the DNC, even predating the election, to provide cover for themselves in the event they lost the election. And that's, an incredible change in the narrative. And I don't see how the mainstream media is ever going to have any credibility again with us once the Russian narrative collapses.
I think they just hope to never have to address it. Like that, I can't see them, talking this away or somehow rebutting what we've been finding out. I think they just plan on keeping us blacked out and not letting this information hit the mainstream. Like, I don't know, do you know if I haven't watched mainstream media today, so I don't know if they've even talking about it, but
that's such a good question, because now we're getting into issues of psychology. So, at a certain point, and this is why, my wife's running around with a tinfoil hat on her head. I feel like if enough people are doing that and enough people are outraged and, they're talking to their family members and their friends and their coworkers and, just anybody, the cashier when you're, paying for gas, I feel like the truth is going to prevail at the end of the day against the mainstream media because, at a certain point, people naturally don't like being lied to, and they're not going to continue to be lied to. I mean, CNN's ratings are plummeting. I mean, we know that. We know the DNC can't raise money anymore. So obviously, there is a material effect that we can see. It just has to continue, and we can't let up. But to see the media kind of embark on this this obviously disastrous path is kind of fascinating because you would think they would want to change course at some point.
Yeah, I would think that, but yeah.
I mean, that's what's puzzling. I mean, that's what I can't understand is what incentive they have to keep going in that direction.
I think the same thing about the Democratic Party. I'm like, when are these people going to wake up? You just lost an election. You know it wasn't Russia. I mean, okay, so let's right the ship. Let's get the ship back on course. And they're like, nah, we good, Jared. We good. We like the rocks. The rocks look pretty. I'm like, what is wrong with these people? So I was talking to H.A. Goodman today. He was like, well, maybe by 2020. I'm like, man, H.A., I don't know, man. Like, I think they're willing to lose perpetually if it means it's going to hurt their big money donors and hurt the 1% and hurt their special interests. I hope I'm wrong. But I just don't.
I think they're in too deep. All of the ones that are in the game now are in too deep. They know they're in too deep, and there's really no other course that they see. So they're just sort of treading water right now, while they know they're going over the waterfall. It's sort of like, that's the only thing I can think of because, from a rational perspective, the DNC would have done things a lot differently following the loss. I mean, anytime, I'll put it to you this way. I mean, in the private market where there's a lot of competition, if a company on the market, makes a horrible mistake with a product, it fires all the people who are responsible for the mistake and, goes in a different direction before the company fails. But that's exactly what didn't happen with the DNC. And so, that leads me to believe that they feel that they have, for whatever reason, they have no other choice.
Yeah, you want to get the good players. And you want to win the game, and if you keep losing, like 1,000 seats in 10 years, and I heard it's like 1,100 actually. But you would want to bring in a different team. You would think. Right. Well,
then the other theory is maybe our political system's just been so bad that it's selected people that just aren't very bright or aren't very intelligent, because people who are smart, took one look at our politics and were like, that's not for me. I have, a modicum of integrity, and I'm not going to join that crew because, they just have the stench of, BS all over them. And all those people have gone off into other sectors of our society. And so what we're left with is the absolute dregs in the political system.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jared. I'm pretty sure there's been a lot of people who couldn't go into politics because of their ethics. They went into something like, I don't know, casino gambling, fracking. Right. I don't know. Like they're like, I can't do that. Pickpocket. Right. I don't know. I can't. I don't know. Drug dealer.
I'll just say this. I mean, at least the mafia has a code of ethics.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think our politicians do.
There it is. There it is. Jared Beck, man, it's been a pleasure having you, man. Tell people where to go to follow you and keep up with the lawsuit and what you got going on.
Yeah, so my Twitter account is Jared Beck, JaredBeck. You can also find me on Facebook if you Google me, and pretty easily if you're on Facebook. if you haven't read the documents in the DNC fraud lawsuit, I would encourage people to take a look at it, and especially the transcript. It's on our website at jampack.us. We have a section there devoted to the DNC fraud lawsuit, and we post all documents as they're filed in court. So that's the place to go if you want the latest breaking information about the lawsuit. And we also have a Facebook page where we publish everything that comes out about the lawsuit, and that's a DNC fraud lawsuit page. We're still not in the mainstream media with the lawsuit, but I think we're starting to make real headway there. I mean, I think that Nation article that you cited, Tim, is a big deal. I mean, that's a article that's read by the mainstream Democrats, and they take it very. That's a newspaper that's read by them, and they take it very seriously, and it's effectively putting an end to this whole Russia nonsense. So I think the tide's really turning as far as the media is concerned.
Well, we're going to stay on it. We got your back, and we're in it for the long haul, just like you, my brother. Give it up.
Beginning. I appreciate it, Tim.
You got it, man. Thank you so much, Jared. Guys, give it up for Jared Beck. Follow him on Twitter, Facebook. DNC Fraud Lawsuit is the hashtag. If you put that in, I'm sure you'll find Jared and his lovely wife, Elizabeth. And we need to do something with those aluminum foil hats, man. I've got an idea when I go to D.C. Maybe I'll try something crazy like that.
Oh, well, that sounds great. That sounds great. And you can get creative with it. And, that's what things like that need to happen. There's a lot of ways we can raise consciousness. That's just one way. And, I think we together we can win this war.
You got it, man. All right, guys. I'll see you tomorrow for Freedom Friday. Call up if you're feeling froggy. Leap. I'll see you. Thank you, Jared.
Tim Black.
Okay. Take care.
You got it.
Tim Black. Tim Black. Yes, I am. True. Funny. Tim Black. I am TimBlack.com. Tim Black.
So say good night to the back.